About 3 hours prior to launch, we walk out of astronaut crew quarters into a silver van, I think the Astro van. A lot of folks with us, Charlie Precourt, chief of the office at the time. Astro van pulls out, like Jim said, as we head out to the launch pad. A lot of folks along the side of the roads waving, and it's a beautiful vehicle. You get out, and it actually looks like it's alive with the venting and having the opportunity to go out. It's a 195-foot level. I consider this, we're only up there because we're standing on the shoulders of all the people that put us there. Into the white room. Mike Ellie and myself, I'm putting on my comm cap. A lot of folks that help us get suited up, and Paul Lockhart climbing on board. A lot of folks are supporting this effort. It's fantastic. And we're in the vertical, and so you can see on the mid-deck, folks getting strapped in. This is Ken Bowersox getting into the seat on the mid-deck.
What a ride. You just kind of have to sit back and experience all of it. Well, you have to open the payload bay doors, and the first thing you have is a view of the Earth up there. And then you got to get right to work.
On the second day, we need to check out both the EMUs, the suits we're going to use, and then Jim also checked out the SRMS, which he was going to use to take the P1 out of the payload bay.
Here's a view from the station of us 8 miles away, and you'll see the burn where we, right there, ignite the ohms to commit to target intercept. The final portion of the rendezvous is done manually with computer control. We fly up in front of the space station about 420 feet, and then we fly in, attempting to be as smooth as possible and plume the station as little as possible to try to preserve its lifetime. See the rest of the crew with navigation sensors helping me, and Paco being the policeman with the checklist, making sure we accomplish everything. The system is a real testament to the engineers and folks who designed the vehicle. It's amazing to me that you can be flying this fast and be within a half an inch of where you need to be, and within a hundredth of a foot per second of the desired target at contact. We have sped the video up here. It really is like watching grass go in a Moscow winter, but we pretty exciting day for us, and I hope an exciting day for Peggy.
Commander Expedition 6 open hatch. This is very important things.
Yes. Valery, привет.
Hi guys, how you doing? Great job. Congratulations. Great job.
Thank you.
Very nice. Привет.
First thing we need to do once we are finished slapping each other on the back is start bringing some of the stuff over. That first bag was what contains the seat liners that the new crew will use to put in the Soyuz, and then of course the EMUs for the spacewalks. Getting ready the night before the first spacewalk, we had to put some anti-fog in the helmets and configure all the tools. It's a pretty tedious job. It usually takes us well into the night. And the next morning it's time to get up early and hit the deck running.
The first day of docked operations, it was my job to lift the P1 truss out of the payload bay. As Peggy mentioned, I lifted up where she could reach it with the station arm and hand it off to her for the final installation. Ken Bowersox assisted me, is a tremendous leader and a great asset to me. I was really thankful that he stayed on board our side for this day to help getting the P1 truss, which you see in our payload bay. Here we are moving the Canadian robotic arm. Nikolai is doing some pre-breathing, trying to purge the nitrogen from his joints in preparation for the spacewalk to go out and activate the P1 truss. We handed the payload off and moving in, grappling on the station side. Joint operations very closely coordinated between the two crews as I held the payload and she moved in to grapple it, and then I released it. It's all hers, and then she'll move it in for the final position for installation on the space station. I'll move the arm away and use the camera on the end of the arm for a better view.
During all these arm ops, the guys in the airlock were also working pretty hard, getting ready. We had to be at a certain point before they could suit up. And so there were a lot of coordination between the guys in the airlock and us while we were attaching the P1 truss.
And this is a shot of Don and Paco inside. We're doing the prep. This is where the suit, including the person inside, weighs about 500 pounds, but you can just kind of I'm being guided into the crew lock. And this is Don as he's closing the IV hatch, we call it. And just getting ready to start driving motorized bolt assemblies, the MBAs, which actually bolt one truss to the other. And Don working on the robotic workstation as he's driving those bolts.
Once they were securely fastened to each other, we got to go outside, and there's really nothing that I could adequately say that would describe what this feels like. You see here the two pieces of truss. This is S0 down here and P1 up here, and the first thing we do is connect the two together electrically while John is reconfiguring the CETA cart, which you saw in a previous photo, so that we can take the launch locks off. Thanks to the wireless vision system, you can see up close some of the work that we do. It's not very complicated, but it's interesting.
I'm using a manual ratchet. About 50 foot-pounds are required to turn the bolt, and I'll turn those for one turn. So look like from inside of the shuttle looking out to P1. And then once I get those removed, I use the pistol grip tool, or PGT, and I let go, and my tether kind of pulls it out of the slot. And here I get a chance to go ahead and stow it. This is like herding cats also, getting it all stowed back into the bag. It looks a lot easier there than it was in flight, let me tell you.
EVA2, the next thing we had to do was connect the two pieces of the truss together hydraulically, if you will. These are what we call fluid jumpers, and they carry ammonia, which is a cooling fluid used on the space station. And you'll see John is handing me the end of them, and then he will join me on the side of the truss. This is what happens when the sun goes down. This is real time. It doesn't take very long at all. Once we get them connected, we open the bail to open the valve to allow the two pieces to be connected together, and this is just sort of an overview of the two jumpers in place.
The launch restraints that were in place on P1 had to be removed once they were in flight, and this is Mike taking one of the keel pins off, and he's installing a bolt. And then once he had it in his hands, it was my job to translate the CETA cart down the rail, which was a fabulous experience, just by fingertips. You could, it's a huge mass, and just lightly pushing it down. As Mike controls it, we have to take the keel pin, and now Mike will install it inside the truss. And this looks like from one of the cameras on the back of the payload bay.
Another ability we wanted to leave on the station was the ability to use this wireless vision system when the shuttle wasn't there. This is an antenna that's used to transmit the signal into the station. And we carried the antenna out of the airlock with us and then attached it to a stanchion, which you see here. This whole thing is about the size of a person. You'll see John here is on the very end of P1, and he's going to go over the edge, and this is what it looks like on the edge of the universe as far as I could tell. It's quite a view. I guarantee he's holding on strong with his right hand. As soon as the sun went down again, I grabbed that whole stanchion thing and handed it to John, and he's locating it here in the foot place where we're going to attach it using the pistol grip tool to attach it. And once it's all in place, we can take the cover off like chicken dinner.
Consider this the ride of my life. The robotic arm is coming into position right below the seat cart, and it's my job to install a foot restraint onto the arm. And this is Mike removing the little, they're called wheel bogies, as I pull the seat cart away from the rail. And then I had the opportunity to ride the robotic arm, courtesy of Don Pettit, all the way around underneath the space station to its fullest. And it started off, and it started getting dark, and it was the blackest black I'd ever seen. And as we came back around the starboard side, the sun came up, and the most tremendously brilliant white light illuminating the station. And Mike guided us in, and here he's putting the last wheel bogie in place and locked it in.
Well, we knew we were going to have to come inside soon, so we took the opportunity to take a couple last pictures, and all good things must come to an end. But we went inside feeling that we hadn't lost anything, and later we confirmed everything because we double count just to make sure. Getting out of the suit is a relief. It's like you coming home after a long day's work. You can see John and I look both a little whipped.
Transfer was a big job. During this time, we had to get large bags like the 5 MLE bag floating up there, plus all the other hardware for EVA support and just for the Expedition 6 crew to have while in orbit. You can see lots of different things going on. Don's doing IFM while everything else is going on, so busy time. And here we're installing one of the payloads, actually exchanging. We had a new one brought up on the shuttle and putting it to the station, and then this one's going back home on the shuttle. STS. Protein crystal goes in. This is a tour starting on the flight deck of the shuttle. Heads down onto the middeck and around. You see all of the bags. This is obviously a little speeded up. You do a loop to go through the airlock and into the to the laboratory module, and you can see a lot of activities going on. You got to avoid people. That's actually one of the things that took a little longer for me to learn since I didn't have many people around. And you can see that the node was a little cluttered, the airlock there to the side, and then we continue on through the PMA and into the FGB. This is all Expedition 6 and 7's food, minus the stuff we ate. And heading into the PHO, below us was the docking compartment, and here is the service module, which is the main area. We have the galley here and the toilet, and then at the end of that is the progress.
I hope that my crew, Don, Nikolai, and I will be able to work as well over the next 4 or however many months we end up living on station. Hopefully more than 4. And this concludes our ceremony for today. Thank you all for joining us.
Again, a change of command ceremony steeped in naval tradition. It's an honor to be part of ceremonies like this. I mentioned that another tradition is to put the flight patch up on board the vehicle. We have an awful lot of flights getting ready to go. Luckily, the station's getting bigger, though.
And here's Valery installing our patch. Also in the node, we have a separate area for the expedition crews that have been up there. Number 5 looks good. Okay, here it is, the crews, everybody's saying goodbye, leaving Expedition 6. Don and Sox and Nikolai, who are still up there having a good time. Sox wrote me a note and said he successfully made Jell-O. Here's L.A. closing the hatch.
And here we are on the flight deck just before we undock, and things have to get back to work now. In other words, we have to concentrate on what we're doing because we're about to separate the shuttle from the space station. And this is a view out the window. That also must have been something naval. I'm not sure what that was. I found the undock and the fly around on both flights, STS-111 and 113, to be a pretty emotional time, especially for the station crews, because it's the first time after they've lived there for 5 or 6 months to back away and look at the station and see how large it's grown. It's really a beautiful time to look at the station with the Earth in the background. And you might have just missed that. That was the MEPSI deploy right there. That's what John alluded to earlier. That was our little payload that we shot out. And good camera work by John and L.A. got the pictures.
This is kind of what our daily routine was like every day. We woke up, couldn't believe it was time to get up already, had a little stretch, and then hit the head, normal stuff, brush your teeth, wash your hair. For some people, washing their hair is a little bit more entertaining than others.
Well, that's because the pilot always has to work hard, and so I didn't have much time to get ready. And I'm good.
We had the exercise device there was a cycloergometer, a little bit different from the one on the station, but same idea.
And here is some more of the just housekeeping that we have to do for the shuttle on each flight. These are LiO cartridges that have to be changed out, and it takes quite a few people to do it.
A little physics experiment. If you get the angle of the pliers just right, you can watch the nonlinear motion where it trades energy from the different spin motions.
I found a bag of pistachios in the food locker, and surprised my wife had given us a bag of pistachios, and Peggy the zero-G experiments with pistachios. That's the way to eat right there.
We also had to do a few fluid experiments just to make sure we had completed all our scientific investigations. And I thought it worked well with orange juice because you can see it better. And
the commander's nightmare. But a great crew. In an effort to show you what happens inside the fluid, you can see the necklace and also some other bubbles of air inside the droplet of water.
Finally, at the end of a long day, it kind of ends the same way it starts, going to bed. This is how we sleep. These sleeping bags are attached in various ways. Some people like Peggy like to be kind of bungeed in. Other people like Paco just strap the bag to the ceiling and hang there.
And on reentry day, one of the 3 reentry days we had, put my suit on 2 legs at a time. Here's Paco. There's only 3 of us on the flight deck. I'm the lower portion of the screen here, MS2, and down on the mid deck.
Expedition 5 in the mid deck. We tried to give them a smooth ride home, but it's not possible. It's a really rough train ride coming down. These calls are all Paul helping me.
You lined up 3,000 speed brakes commanded about 10%. Okay. 2,000 should be the pre-flare. Gears on with the light. More of the guns. 1,000 feet, 306 max. 800 or a little more. Daily of 500. No change to speed brakes. 400, 300. Clear coming down. Ball bar. 20 feet, hold it off.